basically the main thing is the cosmic consciousness and the thought. And so basically you can bypass a lot of things based on what knowledge you give it. See, there's certain levels of initiation, and certain levels you have to do it the hard way based on your non-understanding. So you can be doing stuff and going around in a circle because that particular level that you went in that circle was completed and you're still doing the same method. But the knowledge goes in a spiral. And in order to go in that spiral, in order to get to the next plateau, you got to have a certain amount of a new way of thinking of doing something. It's like working smart and not hard based on when we talk about time is the factor here. So what we're dealing with here is the main thing I have found out that the greatest thing that can make you bypass a lot of things that you need a whole lot of techniques for is you can jump past those techniques by having a certain understanding of a certain amount of things. Now, she asked the question, what can we do? And basically a lot of times we got to look at time factors. See, when we looked at a certain amount of things that they did in Egypt, the certain amount of things they did in Egypt was to sustain the civilization in the physical based on they had another couple of thousand years here. And they did it to a certain level and then it all came falling down because it wasn't meant for them to maintain the physical. They had the white boy that was going to come up and do everything conveniently in maintaining the physical, and we taught him all of that stuff. Yeah. So the next thing is depends on, and so we must ask the fundamental question. We must ask the fundamental question. Then what is the goal that we're trying to get to here?
That's right.
Is it the goal that we're trying to ask that we're trying to niche out a civilization that black people can live on this particular earth in harmony like they used to do of 2,000 years ago, or are we trying to end this particular plateau we own so we can go back to another realm of the cosmos which is not necessarily physical? You see, if our history started just in the physical, then the ultimate goal was to get back to the apex of the physical history that we once fell from. But if so that we were gods of the universe, ruling the universe, and the physical part was nothing but a prison house in which we fell, in so many words, when we got trapped in so many words, then the ultimate goal is, although we have made a civilization that was almost complementary to the heaven above, which would be Egypt, Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu, Terra, Alchemoria, several names for it. They go back millions of years, despite what the white boy tell you. If we have done that, that was only a temporary phase. So now what are we looking for? Obviously we know in actuality that there's no way, now just not be funny with this mess, there's no way possible that we can carve out a fundamental equal existence or a viable existence in the physical when we get by ourselves. We can't even run shit right by ourselves. It seems like everything that we even try to do outside of the white man does not even go right. We even have thousands of people that come and compare us to other cultures and say what we don't do compared to other cultures. And we must ask the fundamental question, if we are the original people on the earth and we have all this talent, what the other cultures are doing to sustain themselves, maybe we are not supposed to do that. So if we're not supposed to sustain ourselves in the physical like other cultures, that means we're talking about a plateau that's on another realm that's not necessarily physical. Just like any other scripture, when it ends up in the redemption stage of any scripture, ancient Egypt, Hebrew, Islam, they always talk about a hereafter in another dimension, whereas we go back to our original selves. And the fact is, our original selves is not that of an earth dweller. We are extraterrestrials and we are gods. That's why the white man now is creating all this other false extraterrestrial to throw the whole world off on who the real ETs are. We are the real extraterrestrials. Terrestrial means what? Earth dweller, earth bound. Then there's extraterrestrial, which means beyond the earth. That's what extraterrestrials mean. Well, our history, if you study ancient Egypt, ancient Hebrew, and we're not talking about fundamental religion from 2,000 years on up. That's just a control thing, a ward of the church, or a ward of a certain culture that want to control a certain amount of people based on moral laws. That has nothing to do with real spirituality. Real ancient scripture, real ancient teaching system, metaphysical systems, or what you call mystery systems, tell you that we once were gods in control of the universe, and then we fell on this plateau. And then while on this plateau, we made the best of it. And the mere fact that the best caved in and fell down was because we inherited it. We got rid of that, or we gave it up so we can go into hibernation or go into the cocoon stage so we can have a metamorphosis as the butterfly, which means we will be reborn into a God greater than the God that we fell from, even in the heavens when we was up there doing our thing, which is higher than this. So the key on what we're talking about, we must ask ourselves the fundamental question. Do we want to do a certain amount of things to get in control so we can do tricks and stuff to control our physical conditions, which, and being the masters of a goddamn ship with a big ass hole in it that is sinking? I don't want to be a captain of a ship or the Titanic. You understand what I'm saying? So the key on what we're talking about here, we must ask ourselves, and that's why all of your particular stuff that was borrowed and you see this put into Christianity and all ends up with an illumination or metamorphosis that we call apocalypse. So that means that apocalypse or nihilism is good. It means in actuality if a house is raggedy in the foundation, there's not but one thing to do: put a bomb to the house and blow it up. So we're not talking about a patch-up work. So when we get back into this for a certain amount of knowledge, people think that people want to gain a certain amount of skills that they can sustain themselves on the physical. That's not liberation. That's just a form of resistance, which we do that right now just by buck dancing to the white man. You understand what I'm saying? So we're talking about something bigger than what we can perceive of just trying to just live comfortable. Living comfortable, even if we live the best comfortable, is still on an animalistic level for the mere fact that you got to have a certain amount of things just to live. When in actuality we are gods and stuff, and we didn't need anything physical to live because we weren't in the physical. Now, that's the real knowledge they're not telling anybody. Yeah, they're not telling anybody. So now, in dealing with that, the mere fact that the earth is corroding itself and being destroyed itself, and people are dying, means that we're going to another dimension. So what we call chaos is actually bringing order to things. You understand what I'm saying? Bringing order to things. And just that we are on the first leg of that. So in your mind, you have a chaos, that thing. You're wrestling with the things of what you were taught based on a certain structural way to do a certain thing. And you're wrestling with that. So you are looking for techniques. On the other hand, for the mere fact that you are asking that question and you are sincere about it, you are automatically initiating to that particular part anyway, and how you go about that struggle is in fact all a part of the ritual. It's like the Spirit told me a long time ago, they said, you're going to look back on this little phase that you're trying to get to, and you're going to find out, oh, I was in a ritual the whole time. It's like being in an adventure. And the person got to go through a whole lot of this type of thing, pitfalls, that type of thing, gain, lose, to get the pot of gold at the end. That's exactly what we're talking about, and that's what basically, if you look at the Egyptian Book of the Dead or the Book of Coming Forth by Day, you will see that that's what it's all talking about. You got to get through certain gateways, doorways, and certain things. So in actuality, we are in a ritual within itself. You see, if we just ask ourselves, how did we get to this point to even be discussing this thing when all of the 1980s this would not even be heard of? And then when we look back, there was a series of progression that got us to this particular point that we are right now. The first part was just to realize the history that we did come from something, and that's what your whole Afrocentric thing did in the first leg of this. The second part is that in that history that we looked for, we found out that we was a part of a mystery system. And this is the actual mystery system. Well, what is a mystery? A mystery is not the things that in actuality that you can recognize and can rationalize. Otherwise, that ain't a mystery. You understand what I'm saying? That's not a mystery. That's comfort. A mystery is something that is so remotely unthinkable. You understand what I'm saying? So remotely unthinkable and all, until that would be the only thing that can even what you would call spark a divine thought. Something that you never heard of, or either something that every time you heard that, you thought it was something that was crazy. Something that was crazy. Now, going back to the subconscious, I talked about this Christ ritual, and the reason why I said I did this out, I took out all the other little stuff because I feel like all the thing you had to do was to recite this. If you can somehow get this in your mind and do this over and over and over again, then it will become a part of your subconscious, and it will become a part of the point where you are Christ. Because the only thing it's doing is tapping within. So you say, well, what is this? Some people say, well, this is a ritual. Is this ritual going to make me Christ? No. The key is you're supposed to become familiar with it and recite it over and over and over again till it taps into the subconscious. Now let's deal with this subconscious thing. The subconscious mind is a powerhouse. It creates around us all that it believes to be true, according to the instructions that we give it. So if you give it the right instructions, you just been giving it instructions on how to do one thing: make money. That's it. That's what we're trained from a baby. Make money and how to look good. Something that's always cosmetic. It's not real. So you're chasing an illusion. So when you're dealing with something that's real, it says your subconscious, it only acts upon what it believes is true. So the reason why some people can hear this knowledge and it don't register, because subconsciously they don't believe that's true. They believe that college makes you happy. They believe that money makes you happy. They believe that success in all its forms of the career makes you happy. And until they find out in actuality that is only something to sustain you and actually ultimately to keep you dead, and abandon that by deleting it from the files, they can't put the new shit in. So it's talking about deleting the files, but the subconscious only will create that what you innermost think is true. So no matter how much you hear this, until you bear witness that maybe the shit that the brother is talking about might be true. The problem that we have is because my face is not white. You understand what I'm saying? Or because I don't have a certain amount of gray hairs in my head. See, that's the trickster type thing. We would take something from a person that we would think is wisdom-wise based on the age group. But this don't have nothing to do with age group. You can have somebody 75 that can be profound. You can have somebody 75 that's a damn fool. You could have somebody 34 going on 35, my age, that's profound, and you can have some people that's fool. It don't have nothing to do with age. We're talking about spiritual thing and whatever energy the vessel get into and cloak itself to get the job done. You see what I'm saying? For the mere fact that we're not in a particular great palace of marble floors with certain name tags and certain enrollment that we had to go and spend for the convention, where we got to spend $100 a damn day just to learn a certain workshop, because it's not coming to you that way, you don't believe it's real. You see what I'm saying? So when you really look at what we do to go through just to get money, workshop just to feel good, and we'll pay damn near $300 for a workshop, then all of a sudden $7 don't really sound that bad. You think about it. You understand what I'm saying? So it depends on so we're looking at the package a lot of things, because we have been taught to believe a certain way. Everything around you here and now has been created for you by your subconscious mind and has been attracted to you like a magnet. So your subconscious mind gives you what the hell you want. If you want ignorance, it gives you ignorance. If you want semi-knowledge, which is a certain amount of knowledge, it's a byproduct knowledge, that's all you're going to get. Even when you leave this life, you will carry on creating for yourself, creating for you and serving you. For this purpose, to attract all that you need. It does not reason. It just accepts instructions that are believed. So we're talking about a belief system. That's why you can have a person that can come in and tell a person they're God one day, and he says it the right way and enter their subconscious, and they believe he's God. That's how you can have all these people that can believe the Jesus thing and believe this whole Christianity thing. And it don't rationally make no sense, some of the stuff that we read in the Bible, but because your subconscious has been taught this at an early age and been basically scared into the shit, you can live your whole life in one system. And it don't necessarily have nothing to do with truth. And that's why when we talk some stuff, it's scary to people to hear this stuff, because it's not the traditional way on what it's talking about here. And it says now, for this purpose, to attract what you need, it does not reason. It just accepts instructions that are believed to be in your best interest. Before you change the created pattern, it has to be conceived that a new instruction is valid. So the reason why we can't get to this is because you don't think this stuff is valid, because it sounds crazy. It's not the conventional way of where you hear things. You see what I'm saying? And that's the way public speakers used to get over on me. Like I said, when I was in college, they would have these public speakers would come and tell everybody in the place what they wanted to hear and nothing that they needed to hear. And they would pay them people $10,000 to bring a damn public speaker in, and he would speak for a damn hour. And nobody would learn anything. That's public speaking. Saying something well, saying nothing well. You see what I'm saying? That's when Honorable Elijah Muhammad used to say, don't listen, brother, don't listen to how I say it. Listen to what I say. You see? So the whole world thought this man was a kook because the simple fact that he didn't have the oratory skills, that he didn't have the letters behind him with a 4th grade education. You understand what I'm saying? Don't listen to how I say it. Don't pay attention to how I say it. Listen to what I say. You see what I'm saying? It has conceived that a new instruction is valid. So your mind has to conceive that a new instruction is valid. There is the will and consciousness and mind that inches the pictures. That will gets past the barriers of the conscious mind. So they're talking about a certain will. No matter how strong the will is, it is to change something. It has to conceive the conscious mind before a new instruction can reach the subconscious mind. The conscious mind sees facts in light of the present circumstances and created patterns. That's why niggas say, what all that kind of shit, how that shit gonna pay my rent? He's speaking from the conscious mind. How that shit gonna pay my rent? What is that gonna do? And most of the people, when you come talk that kind of stuff, they're gonna say, is that shit paying your rent? Because they think of things based on what they've been taught, that everything has got to be rationalized based on what you can gain in the physical. And it said in the physical. This is why some people are unable to see a fact glaring at them contrary to their beliefs. You see what I'm saying? Contrary to their beliefs. Before moving on, it says, the ultimate power of the subconscious mind, we ought to spend some time looking at what we call facts. Since your birth, much of what you know is what has been given to you by someone else. Your parents, your teachers, the society, television, and so on. You have been given facts, and your subconscious mind has been acting on these facts ever since. Programming. From now on, you must question these facts to see if these facts are indeed true. Or more important, if they are true for you. See, a fact can be true. You can go and study a course on how to make money if that's what you're about. But if you're talking about liberating some people and you using the method on how to make money, you're going to get some people that's going to get a little bit of money, and then the cracker going to take that from your ass, and you're going to be the same way it is. It depends on what you believe is true for you. As I have already mentioned, it is quite widely known that your character is modeled after your first year or two of your life. From then on, you are set in your ways. Do you remember the idea that I gave you in chapter 1? And it says, now the traditional minds are set. I'm going to tell you what this book is. This is a very good book to get. The traditional minds are set up quite incorrectly. Apply it to yourself. You were brought up by your parents who had a specific view, and you were educated in a system that was too big for you to exist. So you just accept things and ideas that necessarily are part of growing up. Whatever you liked, whether you like them or not, religious viewpoints are forced into your mind, often by people who never even thought about the implications. Religious ideas are still in this day and age to control your everyday life. And you do not think, so. If you do not think so, take a deeper look at the society that you live in. You see what I'm saying? And you will see that it follows a traditional line of appearances. Even if you are not a Christian, or am I not a Christian, it still have to confirm the Christian ideas of dogma for millions of laws that they have dropped down since the damn 10 Commandments. Yes. You see, so you're still grappling with this particular stuff. This little book is called The Magician, The Study in Effective Magic by Phil Cooper.
Yeah, but there is a point.
Now,
I was expecting when you read that our subconscious mind is 95% receptive means it's not submissible. It's a 15% submission. Wherever I impress in my subconscious mind,
but you, it does, but you, but you,
right away.
but you own, but the only reason why it doesn't give it, but the only reason why it doesn't give it right away is because it's not a matter of what you know to put, or what you do to the subconscious mind. It's the fact that this society is not even going to give you the stuff to impress on the subconscious mind. So we're not just necessarily talking about the organ that works. We're just talking about the materials that they give you is falsehood. The guy named is Philip Cooper, the magician. Came out in '93. Very good book. A very, very good book. Let me see something here. The magician, a study of effective magic. And this is what it says. Magic is the ultimate science. Magical temple and the psychic laboratory. Magical temple and the psychic laboratory. The magical mind and the gods within. So they're talking about everything they tell you in this particular book, or they tell you what magic is supposed to be, is based on your physical body, the inward mind, other than some technique that you're trying to receive some energy from the outside. This is the storehouse of energy is in the inside. You understand where I'm coming from here?
Didn't he say that there is a 3 levels of mind, conscious, subconscious, and superconscious?
Right.
Okay.
Right. 3 levels: conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. But the superconscious only comes by what you put in the subconscious. Actually, the superconscious is already with you. You just have to go to the doggone doorway, which is the subconscious, just to receive that particular part. You understand where I'm coming from? Now let's go on, because I want to deal with some things here. Now, this particular lecture here, also there's okay, I want to deal with a couple of things on Hitler. Hitler, in fact, was a messiah that would be turned backwards. So everything that the messiah is supposed to do, Hitler did, but he was just backwards with it. He did it in the physical, but he was thinking of a new world. It's just that he was crazy. Hitler destroyed Europe. That was good. So actually Hitler was our boy, because Europe, when he got through with Europe, England and Germany and that stuff was desecrated. Russia had lost over millions of people. Just like they killed 100 million of us, their result was that they got their ass killed in World War II. So because them being world oppressors, they had this particular person that came and oppressed their ass. In spite of him hating Negroes, he didn't even get that far. He just oppressed white people and that type of thing here. And stuff. Hitler had a vision of a paradise. Hitler had laid out a system that he was going to build, just say if he was successful with Germany, of white Egyptian temples, a whole crystal city that they showed on the Discovery Channel. They got a 3-part series of Hitler for $49 of the whole Hitler thing, and at the end of the 3rd series they showed his particular view, and he was talking about a brand new something that looked like Egypt or Atlantis in white marble stone, and the temples and all was all built out of Kemetic architecture. None of these skyscrapers and all the stuff. Everything was built just like doggone Karnak, Dendera, and Warit, or what you call Waset, which is actually a Luxor temple, and that whole 9 yards and stuff. And so there's a movie that came out on HBO called The Forbidden. It's a movie with this girl, something Bassett. What's her name? No, not the black girl. Jacqueline Bassett. And in this Jacqueline Bassett. And the movie is called The Forbidden. But when you find in the movie, when they started, and it's funny how human behavior acts when a person starts getting oppressed. When Germany turned on them and started taking them to concentration camps, the Jews acted just like niggers. They had groups of Jews that in order to stay out of the doggone concentration camps, they just turned in other Jews. And one guy, he said he was sitting beside this guy. He said, "I'm a Jew." And he thought the guy was a German, but the guy was a Jew he was talking to. He said, how do I walk around in Germany when they're taking people to concentration camps? He said, I just turn in any Jew I see. He said, that's what I do. So basically he sells out his race. You see what I'm saying? He sells out his doggone race. And the reason why this particular Jew was hiding out in Germany, he had a time to escape, but he was one of these rich Jews, so therefore he didn't give a damn what happened to the poor Jews until Hitler turned on his ass. Movie real key. Everything is always revealed in a certain amount of movies. You see what I'm certain amount of movies. So we say this, and like I said, also it's key that when you say that the movie The Stranger Among Us with what's your girl, Melanie Griffin, and she was talking to the Orthodox Jew, and which is he wasn't an author, it was the black Lubavitch Jew that we laugh at in New York, this copying us, and we thinking that they studying the damn Torah. She went in a room and they were studying the Kabbalah, which is mysticism, and they say, shit, we study 13 hours a day. Now here's a fake Jew that ain't going nowhere. You see what I'm saying? That ain't going no doggone where, but he's studying 13 hours a day, and yet we can't put a gun to a black person's head to study just 30 minutes. Not only that, just pick up a book whenever you get the time. You see what I'm saying? And that's the kind of thing that we're talking about here also too. So now what we're going to do is, this is a recap of the first lecture I ever did on the Dogon.
Yes.
Now, since then, that was June of 1992. Since then, we have had leaps and bounds based on the understanding of extraterrestrialism. But we're going to start from the beginning and try to get our heads a tail and try to understand what the white boy is actually doing, and then actuality, our understanding on what the extraterrestrial thing is also about. And last week I talked about the Adalabroth actually creating the earth. I'm going to talk about Ogu creating the earth, which in actuality is supposed to be an evil realm. But then again, on the other hand, we're going to go into Sirius, which is actually the model point of what was in the heavens and operating in the heavens long before the earth was even built, or even made for actual prison camp. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off and all, because we want to get some of these things back into your subconscious. We're going to start off again by showing you some actual footage from the first video of the Dogon, but in actuality what we're going to also do is not only we're going to do that, we're going to actually give you some newer insight on things that have occurred. This Sirius thing I have studied probably more than anybody in the doggone world. I mean, for years and all, and I have sought for everything that I can find both in the country, out of print, and overseas on this whole Sirius thing and all. So since 1992, I have done leaps and bounds, but we're going to recap some of that stuff to tell you to get a certain amount of books and stuff that's still available. Since then, some of the stuff is going out of print. But we're going to recap some of that particular stuff and go into this particular extraterrestrial thing and try to understand what is one of the main meanings. When it was first given the extraterrestrial thing, what happened was it was under the premises that somebody was coming for us, and we was always looking for years. We were looking for a certain amount of things, a certain extraterrestrial to come for us. In actuality, it's the other way around. We are becoming the extraterrestrials that the doggone white boys are saying in actuality that is coming. Now, it's the difference between that and the ones that's being abducted, because a lot of that abductions and stuff is not necessarily ETs. That's the government doing those, because they have had a certain amount of extraterrestrialism, a certain amount of things since Hitler and since World War II, and that is totally different from what we are doing and all. So what it is they got a whole lot of people fooled and stuff. They got a whole lot of people fooled based on a certain amount of things. Oh, so you got the blackboard up here this time. Yeah, we'll see. Put it right in here and see what the deal is. Now, like I said, one of the Bibles, and it's interesting that we're talking about this because a lot of things are spiritual. It was 20 years ago this year that the book The Sirius Mystery came out by Robert Temple. It took him 15 years to research. It was 20 years ago in 1976 that the actual Sirius Mystery came out by Robert Temple, and it took him that many years to research, and so that it's ironic that we are actually dealing with that particular part now. And basically, that's some hoax shit. That's actually, the NASA thing is like the American Cancer Society, where you just give thousands and millions of dollars a year to pay a group of people salary that has nothing to do with space at all. And that's why every 10 years they'll come out with a few damn reports just to keep people from funding things. That has nothing to do with extraterrestrialism or whatever in the conventional way of what you think space is. You see them things, what you think space is. The white man knows it. The white man knew it before he established NASA. He knew it because he had damn near, at that particular time, he had at least 60 to 70 years studying the occult. So he knew that. So the whole thing with NASA was a hoax type thing to throw people off so they can get money, like the American Cancer Society, like the AIDS Society, and everything else is just to pay another person's bill. You see what I'm saying? Like I said, with the Apollo 13 and all your Apollo missions never happened. It was filmed on a stage at damn Universal Studios in California. Or wherever. They might have been in whatever, but whatever the deal is, it never happened. Hell, if the white man went to the doggone moon, you know damn well if the white man went to the doggone moon, anytime the white man colonized something, his ass stays forever. You ain't never see, you know his pattern. Anytime he ever went somewhere, you can't get that mug out of there. So if he would have colonized the damn moon, you would have a Motel 6 on the damn moon right now. You see what I'm saying? So that's some bullshit. You see what I'm saying? And it's just like Delbert Blair said. He know that the Russians went out in space and they got their ass blew up trying to go to the moon. And so after that, they went into what is called, it's not cryonics, which is freezing people. They have that. They have something called cryogenics, where they can take a picture, they can take a picture, go to a forest, take a picture, take that picture back to the lab, put something on one side of the picture, treat one side of the picture, go back to the forest, and the part that they put this pesticide on, all the trees will be dead. You see what I'm saying? That's why it's crucial that anybody that works in an office has got pictures of their children up in the office around white people. Please take those pictures down, because if a white person don't like you, and it don't matter what you did to them, it's just their nature not to like you, because sometimes they can't take your energy. So therefore, when you away, they can take your picture, go Xerox it, go home, put something on it of your little baby, and your baby come down with all these damn disease and come down with stuff and die. And they can do that with pictures. That's why the Native Americans won't let you take their pictures. You see what I'm saying? And no ancient people did up until we got colonized. You understand what I'm saying? Because they can take that picture and they can destroy people. So that particular conventional way of NASA don't have nothing to do with space whatsoever. Anytime whatsoever. As a matter of fact, a spaceship is really not needed. But then again, on the other hand, they do have spaceships, but the spaceships are not the physical transport spaceships that you think they are. The only thing that the only ones that you will see that white people are literally getting abducted on is some stuff that the government got from the last from the last 40-something years. And this is the hieroglyphic of the star system Sirius. And now, in dealing with this now, why is the Dogon so important? Because the Dogon tribe out of West Mali is, the white man wouldn't even be concerned about none of this particular stuff, but he had understand that there was a certain amount of knowledge. I need to move this over some. He understood that there was a certain amount of knowledge that was going off the planet, that the only custodians at that particular time that kept up with this particular things is the Dogon people. Yes. A group of people in the Untouchables have a secret society, and a people called the Zopa tribe, or what you call the Drukpa tribe, that I'm going to explain some things on them too. Oh, I got to go this way. No? Okay. We'll just keep on going there. Okay, let me get the book out of the way. Just move it.
Yes, scoop a little bit.
Okay, we'll do it that way.
We're right now.
Yeah, okay. Let me get this out of the way. I put my pants in my sock. That's it. I keep stepping on my hem.
There is a group of extraterrestrials. They call them the biological extraterrestrial entities. What star constellation they came from?
Okay, we're going to deal with that. Let me go through this particular thing, and then when you ask that now, it'll put a lot of things in perspective. The reason why we revisited the actual Dogon, because based on the time sequence, there was not an ancient people around other than prophecies that was handed down that could give a certain amount of knowledge or gnosis on the planet that they can trace back to ancient Egypt, Atlantis, and all of that particular thing. Although you have your Yorubas and different people that's still in there, are still in the society, for the simple fact that they were a part of the greater society, they were affected by colonization, outside influences like Islam, or certain things, a certain influence that was put upon them. The reason why the Dogon was able to cultivate this knowledge and preserve this knowledge is when the people came that land and tried to put the Islamic views on them, they would just pack up and leave. And they would keep on leaving till they became a nomadic type of people at one particular point till they got to a certain place that they could preserve their knowledge. They could preserve their particular knowledge, you know. So in the 1930s, Marcel, Griaule, and Germaine, Dieterlen, which was the group of French anthropologists, ran up on this particular tribe, and they told them all these particular things to this particular day, that despite what the white man says he know on Sirius, he's only getting it from the ancient Egyptian scripts, as well as the Dogon is what they go by. All of the physical things that they know on Sirius as far as the star constellations based on astronomy is fake. It's fake. It's fake, and I'll explain that in a few minutes. Why would this be fake? Now, that means in all, based on, they could pinpoint when the Christ was coming back, because the Christians had lost the gnosis from it, for the simple fact that they copied it from the Gnostic people. The Hebrews had lost the gnosis from it because the original black Hebrew, you understand what I'm saying? Although the original black people are there in Palestine, they stopped practicing the actual faith, so you got a white Hebrew. The Ethiopian Hebrew that is there, although he does have a certain amount of religious ceremonies and religious doctrines and stuff, when it calls the gnosis part of him is gone. Now what do we mean by this? There's two parts in a system. There's a system of the general mythology, and the worship of the general mythology, and the rituals based on the general mythology. But there's a second part of the general mythology as the science of the general mythology, the metaphysical science of the general mythology. And the metaphysical science of the general mythology that can splinter in several systems was lost to most groups on the planet. You see what I'm saying? So therefore, they said when they went into Africa, the white man said the Yorubas had these elaborate rituals that was so superior to any kind of thing that they can understand that man could conceive of. But when it came to actually looking at the actual science or the mystery behind the rituals, other than just what the actual gods bring down, they could not give you the esoteric version of that, because during colonization, the actual priests went underground. And the priests went underground and later on died underground. They said we would rather die than to give them the true knowledge, which is the divine knowing. So therefore, what you have is more of a religious system going on now, based on a ceremonial practice, as well as based on what is called a divination system based on the rituals of the deity. But the actual science of how you apply those deities so you can become the same deities were gone. The actual science to map out the circumference or when the actual earth has its actual birthday or into a new millennium is gone. You see what I'm saying? So around the world you couldn't have enough, a certain amount of people had lost what is called, they had the traditional religions or the traditional systems, but the knowledge that ran the systems, the priests had to go underground. Okay, we're going to do that in question and answer because we got to get rolling. Okay, just keep on. No. Okay, hold on. Now, I understand what you're saying, but what I'm trying to say is keep the train of thought, because I got to get this certain amount of information got to get out. And if you break me, I ain't going to get to be flowing. Yeah, like that, no. So that's what I'm saying. So when you get a thought, write it down, and then we'll deal with that. So now, this is what's going on. So the Dogon were a people that was able to preserve that particular culture. So therefore, since the Dogon had the greatest astronomical science knowledge of what's going on in the cosmos based on the star system Sirius, that is equivalent to the ancient Egyptians, then so therefore they would be the ultimate group that would understand that when we talk about the mythology, or when Nomo, which is in the sign of a Christ, sign of a fish, which is also the sign of a Christ, which is the front cover of the book Pale Fox. But if you can't get that book, because a lot of it's out of print, and you can get some of them every now and then, you can come across them, get the Sirius Mystery. Nomo, which was the actual Christ, they understood in actuality, if we're going to find out when the Christ is coming back, and for the Illuminati to understand that that is the Christ energy among black people, we must understand the Dogon's system of Nomo when they do this sacred ceremony called the Sigi ceremony that they do every 50 years. 50 to 60 years. And in the Egyptian part, it was called the Hemmitt ceremony. H-E-N-T-I, Henti ceremony, and the Sigi ceremony. So in the Dogon, it was called the Henti ceremony. I mean the Egyptian, and all, which meant an end of a period of time or the end of eternity, or what they mean eternity as far as eternity that we think that the earth is eternity. It just means at the end of this digit of time on the earth. And all, based on when does the earth have this great birthday. So the Dogon, by doing the Sigi ceremony, understood, was the only ones that could understand that. Now you get the particular information. There's 3 copies left of the Sirius Mystery, which is like a Bible. It's like everyone should own a copy of the Sirius Mystery. A lot of the black scholars didn't like it because a white man wrote it. Well, hell, if you look in the back of them same idiots' books, they got a bibliography and all that shit is written by white people. You see what I'm saying? You see? So then again, on the other hand, we talk about ego here, when in actuality we know that the spirits possess them and they become slaves, which I'll get into it later on, slaves to do a particular work for us. So all this metaphysical stuff is not written for them. It's written for them, it's written by them thinking they're writing it for themselves, but the gods are making them write it for us. So everybody should have a copy of the Sirius Mystery. You see what I'm saying? A copy of the Sirius Mystery. So based on the Sigi ceremony, let me get my paper first. I don't want to. Based on the Sigi ceremony that we're talking about here, we know that once the Dogon do this particular dance, in this sacred dance that they did in 1934, and 60 years from that, when they did it again in 1994, but it was some discrepancies on when it was going to be done. The show that came on In Search Of in 1973 came on and talked about this elaborate ceremony. They said when we walked up on the Dogon, they were getting ready for what they told us was a funeral. They said, but what we later found out, it was an elaborate ceremony called the Sigi ceremony. It is done every 50 to 60 years. Basically 60 years is the real accurate time. You know, done every 60 years. That is actually the birthday of Nomo. So two Dogon Sigi ceremonies is worth one Egyptian Henti ceremony. The Henti ceremony is done every 120 years. The Sigi ceremony is done every 260 years. Period, you'll have 2 Sigis. You see what I'm saying? And at the end, it's called the birthday of Osiris in Egypt, which is the birthday of God, or the Christ, if you want to say, or the birthday of Nomo. So now we got a direct relationship of the Christ energy when it's coming back. Because we know it's the Christ energy that's going to come into a whole group of people other than one person coming back, because the Sigi ceremony has already been done in 1994. April 23rd, 1994, the Sigi ceremony was done. And key crucial things happened in that year. That year we invoked the entity called Thunderdog, which, might I add, which is a Native American form of the Christ of the dog star. At that same year, the O.J. Simpson trial came down that we know as the ancient trial of Amenta, where they said when the trial of Amenta happened, in the papyrus of the Hermetic papyrus of the British Museum, say one thing comes out of this trial of 2 opposing forces of good and evil. We will have a hieroglyphic. We will have a hieroglyphic in that particular part. We will have a hieroglyphic that looked like this all through the papyrus that means separation. That means separation. Even in your Bible, they talk about a time when Jesus or Christ is going to come, and what he's going to do. He's going to separate the sheep from the goat nations. The sheep nations is the one of woolly hair. And God is my shepherd, I shall not want. The goat nations is one of straight hair. And straight hair and all that type of thing and all this. Abnormal, eat paper and all kind of shit. The goat nations. And all. The sheep, you see what I'm saying, even the vagina looked like, is more close to a woman. That's why the cracker used to screw their sheeps. You see what I'm saying? And they had a law in the United States that you couldn't be caught with a sheep after sundown. That's the law on the books to this day. So we're talking about the great separation of the trial, and we saw that separation on one of the greatest days ever in the history of black America that was celebrated on damn Thursday, was a year ago of the O.J. Simpson trial, which was what? October the 3rd of 1995, which is 10/13, a 10th month, and 3 is 13, and 13 is an unlucky number for the white man. Might I add, 13 is a number for the star system Sirius also too. You got 12 disciples, you got the 13th man, which is the Christ, which is the star system Sirius, which is the Sirius is in you. Now, so that's one which is the trial of a mentor. That is also in the Hieratic Papyrus of the British Museum of a great trial that will be held in the time will separate their nations. Well, we know that it was just split down the middle. Black, you seen the thing when black people were jumping up and white people all quiet, because their existence and their reality is different than ours. You see what I'm saying? So now that went on in but the O.J. Simpson trial thing started. It started with the murder in 1994. Also in 1994, you had the white buffalo that was actually born.
The Indian prophecy.
Yeah, the Indian prophecy. You see what I'm saying? And since then, they've had another white buffalo, which makes it an even greater prophecy. An even greater prophecy. So this is the Sigi ceremony. So since we know it's not necessarily the Christ of a one man walking back, coming back, we know that they was actually talking about a Christ people. Because in the esoteric version of everything, Christ is a group of people and a whole race of people other than one person. You see what I'm saying? Other than one person. And they're talking about you coming back. Well, everything has a body. So the Christ at the head of the church, it just meant the remnant. The 144,000, which is a symbolic number. It just means 144,000, a percentage of billions of people. So it's not just talking about an accurate 144,000 people. Hell, that ain't enough damn people to come back when we got more niggas in the United States than that. Got more black people in New York than that. That ain't work, but it's talking about a symbolic number of the first remnant, the light bringers, which in fact is us. That we're discussing this now. That's why we're here today discussing this thing. It has nothing to do with necessarily the techniques. It was already been prophesied in certain laws that when you put a law out, when that law manifests and that law comes to its full manifestation, it's just going to happen anyway, because we were the gods that set this shit down for us years before we went to sleep. We literally carved out things on this is going to happen at this certain time, this is going to happen at this certain time, and this is going to happen at this certain time. But it's not necessarily a date no more than it is a cycle. It's just that the Dogon was able to calculate the cycle based on a date because they were the only ones advanced enough to do it. You see what I'm saying and all, that type of thing. So if we're talking about energy, energy don't go necessarily a date, but it goes based on when that energy gets to its full part. And we actually know that that's happening now. So it can be tomorrow. It can be next week. It can be on into the next year. But I never look beyond right now, because this is what we're dealing with now, because they're killing niggas now. Check. Okay, let's go on. We have the Temple of Dendera, the Temple of Het-Heru or Hathor at Dendera. And this is the oldest calendar in the world, which is 90,000 years old, that was actually created in Atlantis. And the Egyptologists tore down an old temple in the Ptolemaic period, and they got actual blueprints to build the other temple out of the cracks of the wall. Out of the cracks of the wall of this particular temple. And so the blueprints are 90,000 years old when you talk about the Temple of Dendera, which I'll get the outside of that particular Dendera, that particular calendar. The breakdown of the Temple of Dendera, that calendar, the great breakdown of that calendar is both in Swallow de Lubic's book, Sacred Science, and also, but the best breakdown is in Germaine's Book of the Beginning, Volume 2, which there's a set that is still back there. Germaine's Book of the Beginning, Volume 2 is the greater breakdown of the particular zodiac of Dendera, which is older than any calendar that the white man has. It is based around the circumference of the star system Sirius, and don't have nothing to do with the Gregorian calendar, which in fact is damn near 5-6 years off. 5 or 6 years off. So they're saying, when is the Aquarian age of the year 2000? The year 2000 has been here. It's been here, at least we know the year 2000 was here when the Dogon did the Sigi ceremony. And now what it's called the null time. The null zone. The null zone. There's a guy by the name of Zeus, Robert Shapiro, wrote a book called the what's the name of the book he wrote? Explorer Race. And in there he'll talk about the null zone. And it's the null zone. And in that particular null zone, they're talking about a particular time. It's an end time. There is no more such thing as time. Because in actuality, time, there's no such thing as space and time anyway. But a certain time when this cycle ends up, there's no more such time as the year 2000. When it happened, it can happen today, it can happen tomorrow, but it's not a certain amount of time that you calculate up to now. Even the white man knows that. That's why he made his move 5 years ago in 1990. 10 years ago with the drugs. 15 years ago with the AIDS. Atlanta child murders. You understand what I'm saying? He made his move that particular time because he understood that it was over by the time that the Dogon said it was over was the year 2000. So we do know that if we're going to look at any type of time when it's over, we know when the Dogon did the Sigi ceremony, he marked the year 2000. So when is the time for us to get serious? The time for us to get serious is what, 3 years ago? Or when you come to the knowledge that now is the time of the alarm clock to say, shit, nothing else matters. Now it's time to just do what the hell we got to do. Okay, I will continue my life doing what I'm supposed to do, just keep bread on the table. That's given. You see what I'm saying? While in the process. So people always get defensive. Well, hell, I got to keep bread on the table. That's already given. That's like saying, man, I got to goddamn take a shit when it's time to take a shit. What the hell has that got to do with the price of goddamn coffee in China? See what I'm saying? That's given. What the fuck has that got to do with what the hell we got to do? That's real. Check. You see what I'm saying? So now, the story is, the Dogon story is that Amma had one son, which is this particular evil son, that was not all the way created. As a result, he came down, his name was Ogu, and he created the earth, which is his placenta. And as a result, she sent her son to be reincarnated as man down here called Nomo. And later on, he would stand up and challenge Ogu and destroy Ogu, and this is his ark, which is the Dogon's rendition of a spaceship. Is rendition of the spaceship, and they said that the Nomos came from the star system Sirius. Also, the Dogon rendition of the spaceships you'll see, and all of these you'll see, is, well, this one is in the book The Pale Fox. This one is in the in-print book, which is the book where you see these particular space capsules, which is in the which is the Sirius Mystery, which is also the Sirius Mystery. And so he will challenge Nomo, Ogu, which in actuality is the God that's over religiosity, as I said last week. The God which is over, that has a group of people on the earth worshiping him. And a God that's a fire and brimstone that's going to chastise you, because he's too jealous to say, well, hell, if I created this mug and I know what this person is about, why the hell I got to have this person serve me? Not unless that person, you only get jealous of somebody because that person has something greater than you. So we have something greater than the God of what you call the God of religion. I went through all that last week. So we know now up until this particular point that any day now it can go. And as a result, we have seen so many things that materialize at the same time. Wasn't it funny that the white man would come out in 1994, the same year the Sigi ceremony, he would come out with a movie called Stargate? Yeah. And isn't it funny that the model that he copied Stargate is also coming from The Matrix? The book The Matrix, and this particular book was out years before the Stargate came out. In actuality, there was information that in actuality that was a port for spaceships. But not necessarily in the physical. But that's the way we view things. Now let's go on. Because I want to deal with some things here. I told you about a tribe that had a shipwreck in Tibet called the Zopa tribe, or called the Drupka tribe, or the Drupka tribe. The name of the book is called Carl Robin Evans' book. I got a little passage in this little book here, but the name of the book is called Carl Robin Evans' book, called Sun Gods in Exile. Is the name of the book. It is the name of the book, Sun Gods in Exile, and that particular tribe is in. That's one that supposedly had gotten shipwrecked. That had supposedly gotten shipwrecked in Tibet. The Drupka or the Drukpa, or the Drukpa, is a secret set of the thunder dragon, was brought to Earth over 12,000 years ago and established in the plateau of Lang, somewhere between China and Tibet. And it says in a particular part called Bhutan, this particular Drupal religion and all flourished in a part called Bhutan. A guy by the name of Levy, John Levy, is another book in the bibliography other than Carl Robin Evans that also talks about this particular actual tribe. And also, this is also some tribes that we deal with. Also, I should have brought the picture again. I showed you the picture of the little of the black woman and the black man, and they sure did look like Negroes to me. Look like some brothers up here on the corner, and that particular thing also too. Look like some brothers up on the actual corner. In a book called Messengers of Deception, I can't think of the actual guy's name. He also talked about this extraterrestrial government called Umo. And Umo is a modified word of Nomo, which is also us. So the extraterrestrial government everybody talking about is us. Now, also we deal with they said that the Dogon told you that there were 3 planets or 3 other stars around Sirius, and those 3 stars were Sirius A, Sirius B, and Sirius C. That was only seen once by a certain group of people in 1950. In 1950. Now, in this particular book called The Egyptian Revival, which is a guy by the name of Freda Atchett, who was supposed to have been a spiritual son of Aleister Crowley, and he says this. He says there was a particular part that he said that around Sirius there were 7 other planets around Sirius. There were 7 other planets that were also around Sirius, the Sirius star system. Now, mind you, we're talking about this particular information about that, but when we go into the real science about it, it says, note that the divine name Kether, which is the top part of the tree of life, that I'll get a picture of the tree of life in a minute, the tree of life, which this particular part of the tree of life is called Kether, but the reflection is actually behind it. So there was a circle called dark, and it's actually reflecting behind it. They say this particular part called Kether, the premium mobile is in the Egyptian sense is Sirius, the dog star, the star of Isis Sothis. Around it is 7 planets. The nude figure in its symbolism is Isis or Nephthys or Het Heru. Het Heru. So in actuality, they're saying that there's these particular planets and stuff, but in actuality what we're dealing with here, we're not dealing with something as physical as we think it is. When we go deeper into what we're going to deal with tonight also too. What we're going to deal with also tonight. Now, the Draconian cult is a cult of the dragon of the deep space that brought to earth the Ophidian cult worshipped by the ancient Typhonians of Egypt under the symbol of Apep, and is used by the Typhonian order. Now, the Draconian I mentioned last week was one of the oldest names. One of the original names of our particular energy or our particular dimension before we came to the earth was called the Ophidian cult also too. These are also things. The Ophidian cult is also one. And all of these particular Draconian and Ophidian was also worshipped in Atlantis and Lemuria. That's where you get the word. The Draconian cult is talking about, even though we have Sirius, and the Sirius is the first part of the first star of the first 7 stars and of the many stars. But Sirius actually is the vagina in the south gate of the mother. So it's like the clitoris, or it's like the mother reflecting itself. The other is talk about the northern hemisphere, which is called Draco, which is actually the northern hemisphere, and the most height of heaven is called Draco, and that's where you get the word Draconian from, which it means mother. And mother is the triple blackness of space that has to reflect herself by giving light, and she reflects herself through her sun, which is the first of 7 stars, and it is number 8, which is infinity. The first of 7 stars, and she's actually reflecting her own light. It's like Sirius, the male, is only the shine or the reflection of the great mother. Just like we know that man is nothing but a manifestation of the woman. The woman is the negative current and the man is the positive. And we're not talking about negative in one part, we're talking about yin and yang. One is the apex of the power and one is the actual manifestation of the power. A manifestation of the power. So you get the word draconian. Then you get the word dragon. So anytime you see the word dragon, it's also talking about the greatest parts of heaven, but also a symbol of dragon in its purest form is also a symbol for melanin. So anytime you hear the white man talking about dragon, the Asians talking about dragon, that's a symbol for melanin. In Egypt, that dragon was also called Apep. And also a form of the dragon in its crocodile form was also called Sebek, which is a crocodile-headed deity. Basically, in traditional Egyptology that I know of, Sebek always comes in crocodile. Sebek just so happened in the teachings of Ra Nefer Amen also comes as Anubis. Which in actuality is all one and the same, because Anubis is also an ancient symbol for melanin. But dragon, anytime you see the word dragon, which you thought was evil, is also the source of power. So you get the word, it comes from Draco. And we are the people from Draco, so we are the Draconians. Which I'm going to mention that in actuality the people in extraterrestrialism are calling the negative Draconians that's coming in. That's nothing but us rising up. But the word dragon, that's why you see the word Dragonheart. The movie Dragonheart. Okay.
I know it's really funny. I read a book on Ethiopians, and they consider the foreigners, the word they have for foreigners is Ferengi, and in this Star Trek, the Ferengis are these, you know.
You see, you get the movie Dragonheart.